Hello, my friends. I'm wondering if you're feeling run down, like there's always too much to do and never enough hours in the day to get it done, or feeling completely depleted, not present, and getting home late with your loved ones. Well, if you answered yes to any of those, you're going to find this lesson really to be a game changer. So listen up because I've got some important things to share with you. This ties into what the word of the week is, and that word is ESOR. Now, have you heard that word, ESOR? Maybe not, but it's what I call the exaggerated sense of responsibility, ESOR, that many of us in medicine, particularly women in medicine, experience. The sense that we are responsible for everything, for every outcome, for every little thing that's going on, right or wrong, well or not well, in our office practice. And we may even feel that exaggerated sense of responsibility for many things outside of the workplace. And although you may not have heard this term, it's one that I use a lot in my coaching because it really helps to have a name for this exaggerated sense of responsibility that many of us experience, because it is maladaptive and it leaves us really exhausted, never enough time to get things done because we haven't said no to things, we haven't established clear boundaries because we think we are responsible for everything. And it leaves us drained and definitely contributes to burnout. So let me just give you a few vignettes, and I'll mask these individuals, obviously, to maintain confidentiality and anonymity. But I'll call the first one Debbie, a busy family doc, really beloved clinician, large patient panel, a lot of longitudinal care. And she came to coaching because she was always running late. Yes, behind on charts, but running late at the office, running late for appointments, an hour and a half, a lot of patient complaints, even though her patients loved her. Well, Debbie, it turned out, gave her cell phone to all of her patients. And why did she do that? Well, they had a difficult, call center. Things were dysfunctional, as they are in many offices. And she just felt like, well, what if people can't reach me? And what if it's something important? I have to make sure that they can reach me. Let me go next to someone I'll call Judith, a busy cardiologist in a private practice. Again, excellent clinician. That wasn't an issue. And but overbooked. And in this private practice, they actually lost a couple of physicians. They still had a big group, but they were overworked. And what did Judith do? Well, Judith volunteered to work with the recruiter and kind of be the head person leading the recruitment efforts. When the group had financial difficulties, guess what? Judith volunteered again to spearhead the effort to really look at cost containment. When they had to expand to a larger office space because the group was now in better shape and there were more individuals, guess who volunteered then? Well, it was Judith. And in a way, Judith felt like, well, I have to. Who's going to do this? If I don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. But you can kind of imagine that nobody else had to do it because Judith was always the first to volunteer. Let me next go to someone I'll call Jennifer, an OB-GYN, again, busy practice, outstanding physician. And she was really struggling. She had a 10-year-old daughter, and she wasn't showing up well with her daughter. Certainly she wasn't home to do homework, but she had missed some games that the girl was in. She'd missed some recitals. And she committed to her daughter that the next recital that the girl had, Jennifer, the mom, wouldn't miss it. And unfortunately, just before she was leaving the office after a busy day to go to that recital, she wasn't on call, but she got a message that one of her high-risk pregnancies was actually coming to the hospital. But she wasn't on call, and she wasn't the only high-risk OB. In fact, there was a high-risk OB on call, and yet Jennifer really struggled with not going to the hospital because she really felt like it was her responsibility to be there for every delivery. And in fact, if she wasn't there, somehow she wasn't measuring up. And I'll end with one more female physician. Again, I'll call this one Beatrice, the head of a large, successful hospitalist group. Well, long hours, a lot of understaffing, a lot of complaints, a lot of fires to put out, not just on the clinical side, but really more as the leader of the group. And her husband was really getting fed up with it. They arranged a trip to Hawaii that just the two of them would go on. No kids, no parents, no nothing. And she was really, excited. But even more so, her husband was really just upset with her not showing up. So he was really looking forward to this trip. First day on the vacation, they had a great time, really romantic weekend, etc. But on the second day, even though Beatrice had signed out to someone else, one of her peers in the hospitalist group, a call came in, a page came in. And Beatrice just thought to herself, well, this will be quick. I can handle it. Well, she ended up, just as they were going out for a really lovely dinner, she ended up on the phone for 40 minutes dealing with the situation. And you can only imagine how this went in her marriage. It did not go well. So you kind of get the flavor. Exaggerated sense of responsibility, this sense that it's all on us and we are the only ones who can deliver. Now, of course, we want to be conscientious as physicians, as human beings, as moms, as, in every possible way. So being compulsive and taking responsibility is, of course, an adaptive and admirable trait. But I think what you can hear in these vignettes is we can cross a line. It can become maladaptive. And we can find ourselves doing more and more and feeling pretty beaten down and often feeling very resentful because we almost feel like we have no choice. But I am here to tell you that you do have a choice. You have many choice points in the course of your day. If you learn nothing else from my videos, my writing, my books, etc., it's the many choice points that we have throughout the day, and recognizing those choice points actually tremendously increases our sense of agency and autonomy and can really decrease the level of burnout no matter what's going on around us. But we learn in our training that it's our job to take care of everybody, right? And never say no. Many of us learned that in our families. We learned that our value was as a caretaker, taking care of mom, taking care of an ill sibling, whatever it was. There were some messages that we received that that's where our worth lay. That's really what was important about us on this earth. And so we took it on. We took on this mantle of responsibility that is often excessive, and we often feel responsible for things and take responsibility for things that are completely beyond our control. So what do you do? Well, the first thing you do is you name this. You may have heard that expression, name it to tame it. It's really true. I've brought up the ESOR with so many of the physicians and physician leaders that I coach, and just having a name for it, it's like, oh, that's what I'm experiencing. It's like if you have chronic pain and there's no diagnosis, people are very ill at ease if we can't diagnose what their pain is from. But if we even have a name for it, it gives people a reference point. Exact same thing with the ESOR. So that's the first thing, name it to tame it. And I love calling it the ESOR because it kind of lightens it. What a silly word. It kind of brings up images of Eeyore or whatever, but it can make us chuckle a little bit. So that can lighten the sense, this very weighty sense that the ESOR involves. Now, furthermore, once you name it to yourself, you can begin to notice it more. And I call that the notice and name game. Notice. Be aware of when you're kind of acting out of this exaggerated sense of responsibility. Bring it into your conscious awareness. That's what mindfulness is all about. And that's why I find it's such a game changer. Be aware, notice when you're in the ESOR and ask yourself, what is my goal? Is my goal to have a good vacation with my partner? Because we never get time together and he or she is just really at their wits' end about it. Is my goal to be exhausted because I gave out my cell phone to my patients and really I didn't have to do that. I could decide to give it to a select few, but in the case vignette I shared, she gave it out much more liberally. So to ask yourself, what is my goal? That's what's so important, is aligning with your goal, aligning your actions so they add up to getting you where you want to be. And the fourth thing is always to be kind to yourself. If you experience the ESOR, as many of us do, particularly women in medicine, be kind to yourself. You came by it honestly, right? You responded to conditions in your training, in your family, societal expectations, etc. There's nothing wrong with you for experiencing it. What's right about you is working on doing something differently that aligns better with your goals. So, word of the week, ESOR, exaggerated sense of responsibility. Give it some thought. Tune in and notice yours. Notice when it's there. Notice and name it. Name it to tame it. And ask yourself, is this consistent with the goals that I have for myself? Is it consistent with my priorities? And always be kind to yourself. So thanks for listening today. I really hope this can be helpful to you. And I wish you many, many moments of clarity